Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Nary Cast. Good morning, I guess, if it's Thursday morning. And I am your host, Josh, and we are over here at the University of Tulsa. And today I've got Dustin Samford, who is the coordinator of youth ministries. I always say I'm going to botch it, but I think I got it. Coordinator of youth ministries, yeah, within the Diocese of Tulsa. And how's it going?
It's going great, man. It's a great
Good.
Tuesday for me, or I guess Thursday for
Yeah.
everyone else, hopefully.
Yeah. I always let people know I record early and then post because if something went really south today, I need to be able to plan something for Thursday's episode. So that was always the plan.
Plan
Yeah,
ahead.
going into it, I told Lindsay, I was like, yeah, I'll like record on Thursdays and post. And she's like, I would record on Tuesday or Wednesdays. Because if you record Tuesday and it just completely fails, the mics don't work. That's my, like I said, like we were talking before, like that's one of my biggest fears is that I do the whole thing and I'm talking through the intro and no one's hearing anything.
Dude,
Yeah,
perfect example of how behind every great man there's a fantastic woman.
exactly. Yeah,
Exactly. There you go.
so much. You should actually see the Saint draft we did. I was like, oh, because she was the first episode, very
Yeah.
first episode, and she was the first episode because I knew that it was going to be. I'm launching it this week, but if I mess everything up, at least I didn't waste anybody's time except Lindsay, and she won't care. And then I can just be like, change the plans. We're going to be doing next week. But in the Saint draft, I'm like, okay, so this is how it's going to work. You have to have a pope and a bishop, and she like looking and she's like, no, don't make it complicated. I'm like, you're right, let's not make it complicated. And I
Awesome.
think in the video I actually say once we hit 100 subscribers, then we'll make it super. What we'll do is we'll do a Saint draft and there'll be a theme to it. And you got to get or whatever. I say something crazy, but it's funny. Think about 2 months ago, I was thinking to myself, once we hit 100 subscribers down the road, and now we're about to hit 200 subscribers. So this is your invite to hit that subscribe button below. Help us hit 200 because once we hit 200, we're going to give away 200 high fives at the next event we go to. I don't know. I don't have money to give
First
away.
one,
So
too. Quality high fives, not those sloppy like.
yeah,
Ones.
yeah, the ones if it doesn't give a good pop and a good sound, we'll redo it. It doesn't count. So
Exactly.
yeah. So anyway, so give me getting on to you now as everyone's hitting subscribe and like. Tell us a little bit about you growing up. So we got to talk a little bit at Diogo's going away party, but tell us a little bit more about like going back. It's like growing up, cradle Catholic or converted, and then kind of your story.
Yeah. So I was raised Catholic. I'm Catholic because my mom's grandma was the only Catholic in the family, if I remember that correctly. I think her name was Mary.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
If I'm butchering that, I'm sorry, Mom. But my mom went to mass with my grandma, and she just kind of kept up that practice throughout her entire life. And so whenever she had me and my sister, I have one older sister. She made it a point to try and raise us as Catholic as possible. It's kind of difficult being the only practicing Catholic person or faithful Catholic person in the family. But and alongside the fact that we were Air Force family, so we moved around a lot, and it's kind of difficult to find community and whatnot. But she always made sure we got our sacraments. So I was baptized, I think, at the age of 3. Had first communion in Anchorage, Alaska. I don't remember what
nice.
But that's kind of cool. And then, in high school, I got confirmation in Pryor at St. Mark. So, growing up, my mom raised us Catholic as best she possibly could. And then whenever we finally settled in Pryor, Oklahoma, so we'll just kind of like cut there, cutting across all of the Air Force family moving around and everything like that. But my mom was the youth minister at our parish. So she was the person in charge of the high school and, making sure that we had our lessons and like religious education and everything. And so I was the youth minister's kid. And so I was there all the time, and which is hilarious that I ended up here now. I just basically becoming my mom and my dad, which every person fears becoming their parent one day. So it's as hard as you try, you always end up becoming your parents in some capacity. But so I grew up going to church and doing everything with my parents, and I always believed in it. And at one point, I remember telling my parents I really like Father Celestin Obadiegwu over at St. Augustine's here in Tulsa, was the pastor at St. Mark then. Have you met him?
I know the name, but I haven't met him personally.
Gosh, dude, you got to meet him. He's one of the most joyful men you're ever going to meet. Probably the most jacked priest in the diocese.
He's a jacked priest?
He's huge. He's got massive
So I just need to ask him, well, hey, you want to work out together sometime? And he'll be like, yeah, I'll tear you apart.
Yeah, I don't think he'll keep up. He's too humble about it. He'll probably say something nice like, "Oh no, I'm not strong enough anymore." But yeah, he's huge. He's
so
awesome
would you say then that the claim that Father Vince makes as the self-proclaimed most athletic priest in the diocese is probably wrong? Would it be Father C?
Oh, I don't know. I think it would be
Father
a
Vince
real
is pretty
tough. I
athletic.
think at
How
the
old is he?
risk of insulting my good friend Father Vince, he married me and my wife and
Nice.
all that jazz.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think there is some pretty stiff competition out there.
Yeah.
So definitely.
We should insult him, and then he won't ever know unless he watches. Then we'll be able to tell if he does.
Yeah, then we can like have some sort of like showdown. I don't even know.
Yeah. No, that's
But,
awesome.
Gosh, where was I? I'm sorry, I got
no, you're good. I typically ask questions and then
arms.
I get lost. Yeah. So in prior.
Oh yes, okay. So my parents were the youth ministers, and so I was at the church all the time with my parents. You know, because if anybody's ever worked in youth ministry, they all understand what I'm about to say about how there's always one more thing to do. It's like, oh yeah, we've got 12 things done, but there's 5 more that need to get done, and we've been here for 3 hours. We should probably go home and start cooking dinner for the family, but we need to get these things done. So I was at the parish so much that I would sleep underneath the tables in the youth office. There's pictures of me with my little like Catholic hoodie and little hat over my eyes and stuff. And so I did everything, and I believed in the church and everything that it taught. But at some point, like this doubt and this frustration with how terrible the world is, sometimes just like seeped in, and how I couldn't, just make sense of how a loving, good God could allow bad things to happen, especially to those that, do everything that we're supposed to do according to the faith, like, receive the sacraments, praying, going to mass and stuff. And so at some point I just kind of said, I'm done, like I'm going to continue to come because I have no choice, because I couldn't drive at that point. And my parents are so deeply enmeshed in the parish community that, where am I going to go? So I kept being physically present, but mentally I checked out, and just kind of like on my own started checking out the things of the world, of all the things that, the world says will make you happy, like wealth, pleasure, honor, power, all that jazz. And we moved my senior year of high school. And so whenever we moved, we didn't get hooked back up with the parish community, which is probably the first time in my entire life that happened, because my parents were always just so adamant about getting hooked up with the parish community, but life got real busy and hectic, and we just never did. And so I kind of was like cut loose, so to say. And so I kind of just was like, all right, let's figure out this world and secular culture. And I just pursued that as much as I possibly could for the next 4 years. Like, just lived as a fully like self-proclaimed agnostic and secular person would. Just sought after women, sought after like honor and like prestige, because I was a swimmer in high school, and so my entire identity was swim. I'm great, because I got a college scholarship at one point, and it was just miserable though, And I think that a lot of people, even if they're secular people, would agree that the world can't really fix the brokenness of the human heart, right? No matter how much you consume money or relationships or anything else, anything that the world offers, no matter how much you consume, it's never going to make you happy. And I figured that out at some point. But I just kind of like kept getting to this point where it's like, all right, this isn't working. Well, maybe I just need to focus on like money again. I just need to start working and trying to progress in work or something. And that would work. It's like, oh, maybe I should just like focus back on relationships. That's where the key was. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then they say like, the world can't fill that hole that you're like everyone's trying to fill. And that's why I think someone said one time, everybody's seeking God, but they don't know it. Or some people don't know it. They don't know they're seeking God. But when they're like, man, if I just made a little bit, if I made $5,000 a month at my work, then I'd be good. I'd be happy. I'd be good. But then they start making 5,000, like, maybe if it was 7,000 a month, maybe if it was 10,000 a month, 15,000 a month, they're like, why is it not making me happier or getting easier? And the same thing with power. Maybe if I was just this position in my fraternity, or maybe if I was whatever, and it never fulfills that hole, because it's like, you're needing to be fulfilled by something like on a greater power, like not of this world. But everyone's seeking Jesus, but some people just don't know it.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so like at some point, because I started college and I went to the only college in Catholic college in Oklahoma at the time. Now there are no Catholic colleges in Oklahoma. St. Gregory's University. I went there for one semester on their swim team, and I just had a terrible start, and I ended up leaving. And I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna not go to college. I don't need it, and that's just how I operated. And one day, I was working at Starbucks, and I just had the random thought pop into my head of, I need to go to OSU. I need to go back to college, and I need to get to my degree. And I went there with the full intention of just like, I'm going to party, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to eventually graduate with a degree, and then we'll just get back on this track of, power, pleasure, wealth, all that jazz. And but I ran into some focused missionaries whenever I got there. The one time I showed up, I purposely went in through the back door of St. John's Catholic Student Center because I wanted to get in and get out. My mom told me that I should check out the student center because, and I was like, I literally told her, no, that's stupid. And she told me, I made you, so you're going to go at least once. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Or
I'll drive up there and I'll take you.
Yeah, right. I will drive you here to the altar. This thing's terrifying. I don't think my mom would actually do that. She's too sweet. But she'd do the subtle comments of, it'd really make me happy if you go to mass sometimes. Like, gosh, mom, I get it. And I went and snuck into the back door and ran smack dab into a focus missionary. It was Colin Smith at the time. And he just started talking to me like no one else had ever had, it's just all questions about me. Nothing, he wasn't asking anything from me. He just wanted to know me. And it was bizarre, and it really kind of threw me off track. And eventually I ended up getting invited to a pool party, and just from that pool party to adoration. And then it just kind of went from there. And I encountered the love of Christ for the first time, not through, religious education or youth group or just the catechesis or anything that you receive at your basic parish RE classes, but through shared relationship. It wasn't just this concept. It was a tangible person that I could meet, in the person of the missionary, Colin Smith. So I just kind of got to this point where I didn't know what it was that I was experiencing because, I had never really experienced it in my upbringing. This shared love of Christ through a person rather than an intellectual conversation. And so I ended up approaching him and just being like, I have no idea what all this is. I don't know why this community just feels so much better and so much more inviting than any other one I've ever been a part of. But I want it. And he invited me into discipleship with Focus, and it just kind of snowballed from there. This pouring into another person and sharing a relationship, the love of Christ between the two, which is something that blew my mind. And at one point, relatively early on, I started thinking if I'd had this whenever I was in high school, I could have been saved 4 years of just misery and this pointless seeking of fulfillment in things that are ultimately empty, by themselves are not fulfilling. And so I got the idea for youth ministry at that point, thinking if we just did a better job of evangelizing the kids in the parishes, then these focus missionaries wouldn't have to work as hard, right? Yeah, they wouldn't have to be going and tracking them down, pulling them back into luring them back into the church or anything. They would just have them already there, right? Yeah, and then college keeps going and whatnot, and then COVID happened. Shut everything down. My graduation year was 2020.
Oh gosh, that's what I was gonna ask when you graduated. So
I graduated in 2020, man. The year of COVID-19.
Jeez, that always sucks.
Yeah, I call it my graduation. Yeah, I graduated school, I finished school, but because of all the shutdowns stuff, I didn't get to walk across the stage. But so that really just threw everything kind of off kilter because COVID shut down the world and no one was hiring. I was a fresh grad. No one was really hiring. No one was going out and doing anything. But I was able to snag a position you ever heard of AmeriCorps?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have these little positions called Vistas, Volunteers in Service to America. And they had one, they just so happened to have one at Catholic Charities that year doing the social media coordination. So I I did a
Oh,
Vista
nice.
year at Catholic Charities, but the thing about Vistas is that they don't make like any money. They
Oh
purposely set
gosh.
their stipends just above the poverty level. So they can understand the what it's like to be in the shoes of the people that they're serving.
Yeah.
And so I was making no money. I needed to make a little bit extra somehow. So I reached out to Sarah Jameson, who's my current boss. She's the director of catechesis and evangelization.
Yeah.
I think that's the new title of our department. I don't know. It just changed recently. So I probably butchered that. But I asked her, are there any youth ministry positions hiring? She said no. And then a couple of weeks later, she's like, hold up, never mind. You want to pick it up? At St. Henry's in Owasso. At that point, I'd never heard of it. And but I went there, and that was how I got my start as in youth ministry, like as a coordinator of youth ministry, right? Not being the kid that's in the group, but the actual person who's kind of doing the coordination of it. And I just fell in love, dude.
Yeah.
The meeting with the kids every week, talking to them about like Christ or just aspects of the faith or anything else, like that just like blew my mind, and it was great. I did that for about a year and a half, and then I was dating this girl, and like we were going to get married and whatnot, and then that relationship ultimately ended, and then my world just like fell apart, and I had to take some personal time. And so alongside the fact of the world was kind of opening back up, and I was like, maybe I should do something with my degree, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. I really love the kids here, but like I need to move on with my life, be an adult, and so I ended up leaving, and I got a job at Fox 23 News here in Tulsa as a photojournalist, and that was just bizarre because I went from youth ministry where you're sharing the love of Christ and teaching people about the gospel with these kids, and to all right, if it bleeds, it leads. Like we're gonna go film the stabbing on like 11th Street, or you're gonna go, hey, someone got hit by a car here, go film that, or hey, we're gonna go talk to this farmer about why his farming practice is the best practice. And it's like, okay, crazy.
Literally the exact opposite, like sharing the most positive thing you can to like sharing the absolute worst thing you could.
Oh yeah.
Aside from just like say like some Satanist type stuff, but like the like worldly like if it bleeds, it leads is hilarious because that does. It seems like another shooting in North Tulsa, and you're like, oh my gosh, like come on.
Oh yeah, no, like it happens so much that you just go to so many like shooting scenes or stabbing scenes or car wrecks or just anything that you get on a first name basis with the officers on scene. You're like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey, good to see you again. How's the family? Great, awesome. And while I was doing that, because I was the only Catholic that worked there, and there's not a lot of religion in the media, which I think most people wouldn't find surprising. But so there are some people who are Christian, but it's kind of like a cultural thing, because we're in the Bible Belt and everyone's Christian, so to say. But so because I was the only one who was actually practicing and doing the things that my religion asked me to do, and my faith asked of me, I'd get a lot of questions all the time about like, so Catholics, you guys don't believe in this. Catholics, you don't believe in that. Or Catholics, you do this. Why do you do that?
Yeah.
And so I got to talk to my coworkers, like the reporters, the other photojournalists and stuff. And I found that was probably like my favorite times of the week was whenever I got to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And I started to miss ministry because helping people, that was talking to them about the gospel and the love of Christ. That was the thing I loved most about youth ministry. And then it turned out the thing that I was doing at my big boy job was the same thing I was doing at the youth as a youth minister. And I started thinking like, man, I really miss this. Like maybe I should go back, but they'd already hired a replacement. And I was like, never mind, it's not going to work. And then June 1st, 2022, the St. Francis shooting happened. And I was like, that's it. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was I got to see the I guess I wouldn't say the darker side, but the more we need to capitalize on this moment of the media, tragedies have a lot of views and brings a lot of eyes to the screen, and we want to be the first to get the big scoop and stuff. So I got to experience that, and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's almost like that. They're not excited someone died, but they kind of are. Like, oh, let's get out there, guys. Yes, like it's a shooting. Like,
be the first on the scene. Be the first to talk to the officers.
One of
get
those.
All the information.
Yeah, Stephanie. I'm running blank for last name right now, but she's one of the doctors that was shot. It's one of my old personal training clients. She was, I trained her for a while, and then we moved to Orange Theory together. And so I knew her really well. So that was like one of the first times it was like, here are the shooting victims from St. Francis Hospital. And it was like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like that's insane. So that was the closest I've ever had to anyone like super close to me dying. But yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, that was a crazy day. It's like, it was actually my birthday. That was my, like, I kid you not. I had a dinner planned with all my friends, and they were already at the restaurant. They were already at Kilkenny's, and I was wrapping up our last live shoot of the day. Yeah. And my dad at the courthouse. My dad used to work at the courthouse at the time. He came down in between our 2 live shots, and we're talking to him. He's like, "So you hanging out with your friends later today?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're going to get dinner at Kilkenny's. It's real great. Just got to do this last live shot." Literally, middle of that conversation, and then my reporter leans out the window and he goes, "Dustin, we gotta go. There's a shooting at St. Francis." And I'm like, "Never mind, Dad. I gotta go to work."
Never mind, yeah.
And ended up like spending the rest of the day there. And rather than like in my previous job where I got to enter into the suffering and help people walk through like some tough times, I was just sitting there filming it, and I couldn't help them. So at that point, that day was whenever I finally came to the conclusion of like, I can't be.
Yeah, gotta get out of here.
So at that point, like, I reached out to Sarah again, and I was like, "Hey, are there any youth ministry jobs at any parish in the diocese? Does not matter." And there wasn't anything, because there's actually a very few paid positions in the diocese. So if you can find a full-time paid or even part-time paid youth ministry job in the diocese, you've found a form of a unicorn, because they're difficult to find. And there wasn't anything. And my mom has a friend at work that reached out and was like, "Hey, is your son looking to get out of the news?" And she's like, "Absolutely, he's hating it." And and he said, like, "Well, there's this place I know called Clare House. It's a house for the dying. They're looking for a new manager. Like, do you think you'd be interested in that?" And that's another area of not like it's a secular place, but there's a form of ministry, because you're helping people in literally their final hours, and their families in the final hours of their loved ones. So it's like, I'll give it a shot. And I worked there for about a year. And it was, again, the same sort of situation, of I was encountering these people in some of the toughest parts of their lives, and I was getting to talk to them, but I was like, because it's a secular organization that didn't cater to any specific faith or any, propose any singular faith or any faith at all. It was kind of difficult. Like, I'm able to talk to these people and kind of like support them through this, but I can't share the gospel with them. So it's just kind of like this tension point. And towards the end of my time there, I got to this point where I was just thinking, I want to talk to people about the Lord. I want to like help them, like walk with them to a relationship with Christ. And that's whenever I actually got an email from Sarah again saying like, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about a position opening up in youth ministry.
Nice.
Let me know what you think." And I was like, "Lord, you are there. You are good and you are beautiful. Thank you." And that's how I ended up here, man. Just helping out the youth ministers of the diocese from the borders of Kansas, Arkansas, and Texas, a little bit past Stillwater, to try and evangelize and spread the gospel to any teens in the state, eastern half of the state.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's how I got
That's
here.
super cool. Well, that's cool that it kind of like all started with that focus missionary. Like, where you're like, dude, like, I really don't. And there's always that person, I feel like that's that tipping point for someone. It's like, it's not the end all be all. Like, if that wouldn't have happened, would you still be in this position? It's like, maybe. It may have just taken a little bit longer. Maybe you walked that door and you did squeeze through and didn't run into him, but then you ran into Father Carey or something, whatever. But like, and then Father Carey would have been, and I'm sure he obviously had a huge role too. But but it's cool, and it has those people, because I had that same kind of interaction, but it was with Father Webb. When I first met Father Webb, he was the first person that I looked at that I was like, Father Webb is exactly like that saying we were saying, like, everyone's seeking Jesus, but maybe they don't know it. Father Webb's like one of those people you see, and you're just like, whatever he has, whatever is going on in his mind and his heart, like, that's what I want. Like, I wish I was so joyful like he is. I wish I was so happy like he is. Father Carey's another one who is just like so crazy and happy and fun all the time. I've never seen him. I've seen him really tired before, but I've never seen him like in a bad mood or whatever. It's just like, he's just high on life, like loves what he does, and super cool. Like, it's something like wealth doesn't have to play a part in it. Obviously he's got a beautiful, nice church, but like it's not like he's just super wealthy. I mean, it's pretty, so he's not, but it's not like he's just traveling like all over the world all the time, but he's just like just full of life, just living it up in Stillwater.
It's so true.
Yeah, and now Father Webb's now kind of in your world. He's out in Alaska. He's in. I
Oh
think
yeah, he's what, Fairbanks?
yeah,
Something like
Fairbanks is his first. Yeah, he sent a picture of him like in the mountains or something on a hike. I'm just like, that's crazy. But he's graduated, went through basic and all that kind of stuff. And but it's always so cool, and it's always like you never know who you're going to run into that, and you may never know that you were that person, that you were just so joyful and full of life, and you were the one that later on were the reason that they made a better decision or whatever it is. Maybe something little, you just made their day a little better, or maybe something big where they're like contemplating their life in general and they were like wanting to end it all or something. And it's just like so important just to be that light. And so it is cool to be like, it's cool to see like get into journalism and stuff and be like, I've got to get out of this. I worked for my dad's law office for a little bit, and he does family law. So he's like, I need you to sit in on this meeting. And it's like the mom, and she's just like, this is what the husband, my husband is doing to my kids. And I'm just like, like, I don't want to hear that.
Ooh,
like, I've got 2 kids. I don't want to hear that. That's so horrible. Just crazy. And then one more before we move forward, because what you said I want to go on with like the topic of the day is that St. Henry's in Owasso. The one thing that bothered me with that church, nothing bothers me with the church, but on the outside it says St. Henry, and that Henry is lowercase. It's like
that old English
why is that
on the side, right?
Why is that lowercase? It's so big, and it's kind of an interesting font, so sometimes it's hard to read. But I was like, man, that should be big.
I think that was actually the original entrance before before they put the highway through. I think that was the original entrance, or one of the entrances to because their old parish hall was where they used to have mass. And then,
gotcha.
Then they had the new chapel, and then they built Bamberg Hall, which is like their gym. I think this is the right order of things. But so like it's just kind of like it started as this tiny church, then they built on, and then they built on, and then they built on. And so it doesn't have like your traditional front side, and there's these like weird signs and things all over. So it's kind of interesting outside, but that's like one of the best communities of people.
Yeah, I would say it is. We lived like a mile and a half down the road. We still plugged into Christ the King, but we lived like a mile and a half down the road. And on Sundays, leaving for Mass, like that parking lot at St. Henry's just packed. Oh, yeah. And I mean, a big Catholic church to serve a big community, but it was like we always heard that it was such a great parish and community, and
it's so wonderful. Like, quick plug for St. Henry's, like they are fantastic, and you get further and further out from the metro, and there's less and less Catholics just out and about. And so I guess Owasso and Collinsville aren't technically super far. They're not rural, but they're still far enough out that it gets really scarce, and they are just filled to the gills like every day. It's awesome.
Yeah, that is super cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And then what you said about kind of the importance of ministering the youth, especially when they get to that age. I feel like you get into the junior high age, and I don't know what age you start with, the kind of junior high to high school, or mainly just high school.
My office, we serve 6th through 12th.
Okay, cool.
The area that we primarily cater.
Yeah, because I feel like there's an aspect, and I'm seeing some of my family members that are coming up, they're a little older, that I feel like they hit like that 10 to 12 range where they're like starting to want to be like the cool kids and wanting to do the cool thing. So then you got that kind of obstacle of like, okay, well, how do we make this, like, how do we make faith still important when that's kind of their mindset of like, especially if they're in a school setting where they may be around secular kids, which we're big, we're homeschooling our kids. And we're big on, we're big on that, or either that would always be our preference and recommendation to people, or to get into some kind of private Catholic school, like Holy Family or something. But you do have places like Marquette is doing great things with Christ the King, and you got places, but it's like, I feel like that's the first step is you got to make it cool, but at the same time, not like what Protestants do. Not like it's like some rock concert where we're gonna dumb down some of like the sacraments to make it cool. But like it's that, and then they get into high school where it's like this is where you could start to lose them. You could start to lose them because now it's really like they start to make their own decisions. Maybe even when I was in high school, I hit a freshman year. My parents let me kind of choose where we wanted to go to church, and most of me and my brothers just decided we're not going to anymore. And so I stopped going for a little bit. I just got lucky. I met some high school friends that plugged into this non-denominational church, and it was kind of I called it a feel-good church, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We went and got to know the youth minister really well, and it was a lot of fun. The music was always really good. And then I got lucky that when I went to college, my roommate wanted to find a church, and we got plugged into Life Church. And I call that one surface level church. And I'm not like trying to jab at them or anything, but I just got to the point where everything was the same over and over and over again. And so after my freshman year, I was like, okay, I don't want to go back there again. I know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a little motivational message followed by bow your heads and raise your hand if you want to give your life over to Jesus, and like doing that again and again. Yeah. And I love the memes where they're like the preacher telling everyone to bow their hands, and it says the worship band, and they're like sneaking on the stage, you know, just like crawling onto the stage.
Like the gorillas sneaking around like through the rain or something like that.
Yeah, just trying to sneak back on stage. Yeah, so then I fell away from the faith. And so when I got around, like, long story short, met Lindsay. I hired her at Orange Theory. That's how we met. And then she wanted to take me to Mass, and I met Harrison Garlick, who's now Deacon Harrison Garlick. And I met Father Elkin, who introduced me to him. And then he got me plugged into RCIA. I always say tricked into RCIA. And I've told this story a couple of times on the channel, so kind of skip through it a little bit, is that you should come out. We hang out on Tuesdays, and there's food, and it's a good time to ask any questions if you have any questions about the Catholic faith. And I show up, and it's like everyone has a catechism, and everyone's like, there's a screen up there. I'm like, what is this? What did I hook into? But I fell in love with it. And and I was just like I got really lucky that I kind of came, like, I just like at least stayed around. Like, I stuck around, and I kept thinking to myself, there's got to be more. And just at times, I just didn't really care. I didn't really care if there was more, but there's got to be more. But when I started this job, so I met Father Webb through RCIA. He celebrated our wedding with Father Carey. And then when he offered me or he told me to interview for this job, and I got this job doing development fundraising, another one that's kind of like a unicorn, I found out. Calling Father John Fincher when he was at Christ the King. I'm like, hey, who's the development director at Christ the King? And like, oh, we don't have one. We just like send out an end of year appeal, and the parishioners take care of us. I'm like, dang. Okay. And then I text Father
Vince. Getting college students to
help you with that. Text him. Yeah, I text Father Vince, like, do you guys have a development director? He's like, no. So there's only 3 development directors. There's you and Brett at Oklahoma State, and then there's Derek Lissy, who's like the head over the diocese, does development for the diocese. I'm like, what on earth? Like, I didn't know that. So if anyone wanted to get into fundraising, there's literally only 3 positions, which is so interesting. But that's when I showed up, and I kind of have a similar experience. I showed up, and a Focus missionary, Reese, showed up and was like, hey, man, like, I'm Reese. I'm the team lead. Like, I'd love to grab coffee with you sometime. And we get to his house, and we're having coffee. He's literally like, hey, just so you know, if you have any experience in college ministry? I'm like, no. He's like, well, we're like in a battle. Like, this is a spiritual battle. Like, we are here. Just so you know, 70% of people fall away from the faith in college. Yeah. I was like, oh, wow. Like, Catholics specifically? He's like, no, just in general. 70% of college students will not go to any kind of church. I always joke with parents. I'm like, you should come up and see if and like go to Mass with your kids, because we have our senior Mass at the end of the year sometimes, and the parents show up, and these kids are at Mass, and we're all like, who is that? Like, never seen that person before. So he's like 70% will fall away. And so I ever since I started this job, I was like, man, there's got to be something we could do to like reverse that number, at least within our diocese, which obviously is our main focus. And then if it was something that worked, it would be something we could share with others. Like, you should try this too. And so I had this idea, and I was like, I was like, this would be perfect. You'll be a perfect person to talk about. It's like, is ministering to the high school kids is super important. Ministering to the college kids is super important. But like you were kind of mentioning earlier, it's like getting them plugged in to like the college ministry, like when they get there. But I was thinking almost even before that, it's getting them plugged into the college ministry before they're in college, like while they're in high school. Ooh, and so we're looking at this next coming year. I'm going to have at least 2 events this semester, or we are, and that we're going to have reaching out to Father John Fincher, probably whoever's out in St. Henry's now, Father Brooks and Broken Arrow, and to get all like the Catholic seniors, maybe juniors too, but especially the seniors, to like come out to something simple like the Mass and s'mores afterwards. And so we do this event where it's like, you see, if you're at Broken Arrow, Father Brian Brooks is up there, and if you're Bishop Kelly, Father John Fincher's up there, and then Father Porter is doing Mass and concelebrating. They're concelebrating, and we have this idea, like this just good event where you see all the priests together, and it's a whole mix. The whole congregation is all high school seniors and college students, and then you get the Focus missionaries and the staff, and then you start like just the fun part afterwards, just letting them experience Newman life and experience this, the like focus missionaries, get to talk to people like Gerald, who's like our hidden gem over here, get to talk with Father Porter and hear more about college ministry. Because then it doesn't matter where they go. If like the focus missionaries are talking to them and like, so where are you going to college after you graduate? It's like, oh, I'm actually heading to Arkansas. Then Ignacio would be like, I know the focus missionaries there. Let me get you in contact. And now they're in contact and able to get plugged into Bible studies or plugged into the next event or the Welcome Week events before they even get there. And I think that'd be just like such a cool, especially when they are going to like, yeah, I'm actually going to University of Texas, San Antonio. So it's like super far away. So they're not just going to make a day trip to go visit. But if they're going to Oklahoma State, maybe they are going to make a day trip to go visit. But if we could get them plugged into the college ministry while they're here, then when they get to the University of Maryland and they don't know anybody there and we don't know anybody there, at least their first thought is like, I'm going to go check out the Newman Center. I want to see what it's all about and see.
Dude,
and hopefully they run into their focus missionary. That'll be their tipping point. That'll get them connected right away.
Yeah, I think that could really agree with like all of that, because I think one of the big reasons why so many people like they bounce whenever they do get to college is because they don't know what's there, right? Yeah. So like unless they are super firmly rooted in their faith, which some families are, and the kids will seek out the mass and the local church without any prompting or without even like focus being present on the campus or any other like campus ministry, they'll go by themselves. But so many of them, like myself, for example, I mentally was checked out, not, believing in any of the tenets of the faith, but I loved my parish community at St. Mark. Loved them. I loved all my friends, loved all the people. I didn't agree with all the things that we were teaching and stuff, but I loved the people. And so losing that community at the bare minimum, like just the community, was really difficult. And everyone's trying to find family and really friends and just like community in general. And if you don't know it's there, like you don't know, and you're just going to find anybody that will love you and accept you as you are, like wherever you are. Yeah. So I think, absolutely. Getting them plugged in, or at least showing them, hey, this is where we are. This is who we are. We're normal as well. Because there's also like that mentality or the thought process that a lot of kids that might be in high school right now, and they're thinking about being Catholic in the future, and they think that, okay, if I'm going to be a faithful Catholic adult, I'm going to have to be lame, and I'm not going to be able to have fun and be normal and have normal interests, like normal, quote unquote normal. Through and through normal. But absolutely, dude. Yeah. I think getting people introduced to the different Catholic communities that are out there is super important, especially at an earlier age. Building up that web of Catholic community across, absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I think. And we have this awesome facility here, like at TU. And it's just like, man, we need to start bringing more of the community on, like here. When Father Webb first got assigned here, they're like, they're actually moving Father Webb to St. Philip Neri. And I think they may have said at TU. Maybe I didn't hear that part, but I had to ask him, like, where's that at? And he's like, it's on campus. It's like the Newman Center on campus. And I was like, I've literally never heard of that. And, it's just always been this really quiet place, and not a whole lot of people, unless you know about it, you don't know about it. If you think Diocese, it's really interesting. If you think Diocese of Tulsa and think college ministry, you immediately St. John's, Father Carey, like they're like the goats of it. Like they're kind of the LeBron James. But then we're just such a smaller ministry. But then when you start comparing the numbers and stuff, we're actually putting up some of the same numbers percentage wise. RCIA numbers and Bible study numbers are crazy. We've got almost 10% of the entire campus plugged into Bible studies here, which is wild. We had 220 students attend at least one Bible study throughout last year, and it's only a campus of 2,600 people. And so it's like wild what the focus missionaries are doing. Yeah, I tell people.
Is that the standard focus model? Like the discipleship chain?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So at the beginning of this past year, we had 3 student-led Bible studies. And by the end of the year, and to start next year, they're assuming we're going to have all of them back. To start next year, or the end of this last year, we had 14 student-led Bible studies. It was wild. And then we had a killer freshman class this year. We had one girl, which I actually messaged her, and I'm hoping it all works out and it's going to be good. Seeing if she hasn't seen it yet. She's probably I don't know. She's probably doing something. It's summertime. But as a freshman, she came on and like immediately was like, I want to bring Students for Life onto campus at TU, which I believe is like the Turning Point USA, like big organization. I'll bring on campus. At a college like TU, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And so she did. She like got all sorts of like, no's, you have to do this, all these hoops she had to jump through. But she just kept fighting. She didn't give up. And we literally, as of last semester, officially have the Students for Life. It's like TU Students for Life here on campus now, which is just insane. I mean, we have I heard we have like a vending machine that is a contraception vending machine on campus. Oh, wow. And so it's like, you're not letting us have a pro-life group, or you're making it so hard for us to have a pro-life group, but you're allowing this. That's so weird. So now they'll do tabling events and like table right in front of that vending machine.
Dude, and that's so awesome too, because that just goes to show that, you know, as a freshman, because especially with freshmen, they show up and they're kind of timid and they don't really know what's going on. So like by their sophomore year, typically people get more involved on campus and they start doing more things, because their freshman year they're still trying to figure out, how do I even schedule my own life, because you know they don't have parents telling them what they're doing. But to have a freshman show up on campus is like, I'm going to do this, and then they do it. Like, that just goes to show that there's like either a family or a parish community behind them in their formative years that really fed them well, like in the faith, and just like in their personal growth as well. That showed them like, no, you can make a difference. Like, you're not the church of tomorrow, you're the church of today, and you can make a difference today. Like, that's awesome. Props to her.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's been awesome to watch like her grow, and she's one of those ones too where you just like, our daily masses will range from like 15 on the low end to like 25, which is pretty solid for a small parish. But like, you always see her, like she's always there in that for one of those front rows, and it's like super cool. And it's super cool because people at Christ the King are constantly like, with me and Branson and our small, or like our young adult group, like these older guys at Christ the King were like, it's so cool seeing you guys and how far along you guys are in your faith, all this stuff. And I'm always thinking to myself, like, you think that of me? You should see these college students. Like, I'm impressed. I just went to Seek for the first time. You should see those students. Like, it's wild. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's awesome. It's just super cool. And
I feel that. I feel the same way about some of these youth kids, like high schoolers, where they're so on fire about their faith. I'm like, goodness gracious, you make me, a 28-year-old man, look.
Yeah, I know, right?
He's so much more holy than me.
Yeah. I think one other thing I was thinking, this one's a little bit harder because you got to be able. It would be a dedication, but I think at least putting out the invite to the seniors to attend Seek, to go to Focus as Seek.
Is that open to high school age seniors?
So it's open.
I guess they'd be incoming freshmen, so they'd technically be college students, but
so it's technically open to everybody now, because they actually have a parish track now. So you can sign up, and so like we went with Christ the King. So Christ the King, Father Vince was there, Father Carvajal was there. We had tons of people because we have so many. Like I believe this is just word of mouth from Branson, who I probably not supposed to say, but that's good. We have like parishes that are about to bring Focus, I believe, on campus. Don't quote Branson, you can quote me, but if I'm misquoting that. But so we had a whole bunch of priests there. But they had so it's always been obviously college focused.
Yeah.
But now there's the parish track. They call it Making Missionary Disciples track. And that one, it grew I think they said 150% or something. I think we had almost 4,000 people, if I remember. I don't know if those numbers may not be right, but it was a few thousand people that were there that were like, I'm here because I work for a parish, or I'm here because I'm a Bible study leader at a parish. I'm like in parish life. I'm not in college. I'm past college, but I'm here to grow my faith and grow. And how can I be a missionary disciple in my parish? And so
that is super exciting.
But it grew so much that I was telling Branson, I was like, if it continues to grow this much, the Making Missionary Disciple track, they're going to have a separate Seek that is just for the missionary disciple track, because it's going to grow so much. And then the college one's just continuing to grow too. So it's wild. But I think it'd be cool to take a whole bunch of seniors to Seek, and it'd be cool to have the organized travel with the University of Tulsa, so they can travel with the Focus missionaries and the students and stuff. But then the parents could come along too and kind of be part of that Making Missionary Disciples track. I just think it'd be cool. I think that's if they saw Seek 5 months, 6 months before they entered college, I think they would definitely be like,
oh, absolutely,
I'm getting plugged in.
Yeah, anything that big, so kind of nationwide, any opportunity to get to show a high schooler, the church isn't just your tiny like rural parish in Oklahoma, which is a mission diocese and super small in your religious minority. Like the church is much bigger than just the small town that you grew up in.
Yeah.
And any opportunity you have to where you can just introduce them, just let them see it. Like that makes such an impact. Because I remember whenever I was in high school, and this was around the time that I was agnostic, and I went to NCYC with my parish youth group, and I just remember seeing like literally thousands of Catholic kids from all over the state, or not the state, the country, fill up the Indianapolis Colts stadium.
Yeah.
And like having mass in a stadium, and like there's so many priests just everywhere throughout like I'd only ever known maybe like 2 or 3 priests, maybe 2 deacons at the time, now priests now. But just seeing like, oh my gosh, this is so much bigger than my tiny town of Pryor, where I am one of 7 Catholic high school kids, So, I mean, it wasn't enough to like spur me back into taking the church more seriously, but it does show like, it's so much bigger than what you think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a parent go. Her daughter wanted to go, but I think was a little nervous for it. So asked her mom if she would go. Her mom was like, okay, I'll go with you. And her mom went, and she came back and went to mass here at St. Philip Neri and told Father Webb, like, I believe it's Father. Yeah, it had been before Father Webb left. But she said, Father Webb, I just want to let you know, I went to Seek, and I am way too much onto social media. So I am just looking at the Catholic Church like it is just going down in flames, and everyone hates the Catholic Church, and it's just terrible. It's a terrible time to be part of the Catholic Church. But then I went to Seek, and I realized like, no, the Catholic Church is in good hands. The future's bright. Like it's good. Like we're good. And she's like, it just reminded me, I just need to get off social media. And she's, So I was like, that's so cool. And that was right before I went on mine, like on my first Seek. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, and that's really true too. Like if you go on social media or you go online, just anywhere in the news, you see the state of the world and you just think like the world's going down in flames. The church is like a burning ship that's sinking. And it can really like cloud your view of the world, like the church especially whenever like the secular media is constantly misquoting Pope Francis, and it's like Pope Francis said this today. It's like, what's the daily scandal with the Pope now? And then you actually get to, if you were to like take your eyes off of that and just kind of dive into the focus Seek model, or just like the focus model in general, and stop focusing on the world outside, start focusing on the person in front of you, the kids in front of you, and the person in the pew next to you, like the church wouldn't be as bad, and it wouldn't be as scary, because then you start to see all the good inside the church that are in the people next to you,
Yeah, absolutely. And then actually when I had Branson on in like week 3, we talked about that. The whole episode was kind of based around this, like the little way of evangelization. And he talked about Focus's model of win, build, send. And it's just such a great model of like win, which kind of sounds interesting, but it like just, be like, or win the person over, like just create that relationship, a great friendship, because that's where evangelization's got to come out of relationship. That's what you see some of these people that like set up on a corner with a megaphone, and like it's like this isn't doing any good. It really is not. And then gosh, those were funny days. Oh shoot. But then you build that person up, and then you send them out to do the same thing, and it's just like we don't need to all be trying to like I was something like with this podcast, I'm not trying to like gain millions of followers, because if I gain millions of followers, I can bring millions of people to Christ. It's like, no, like if anything, it's more for these conversations. It's more for the like building myself up with other people, having conversations with other people. But then if there's one person that's watching this right now and it's just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like I got so much out of that. It's like perfect. Then we did our job. Awesome.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to change the mindset of a lot of the youth ministers in the diocese too. Is that, so many are so hyper focused on the numbers of kids in the room that they completely overlook sometimes the, what they're actually doing. Like, are you actually talking about the gospel? Are you effectively communicating the gospel? Are you introducing them to Christ, or like through the sacraments? Like, what are you doing with them? Or are you just so hyper focused on how many kids are in the room? Some will look at it and be like, I have 7 kids that show up on a weekly basis, and they're like, I'm absolutely failing. It's like, but those 7 kids could turn out to be like the greatest saints in 20 years because of the work that you're doing with them now. Or I have 40 kids in the room, I'm great. And it's like, but majority of those kids don't even want to be there, and they're only there because their mom said, if you don't go to youth group and get confirmed, then you don't get your driver's license. And it's like, they don't even want to be there. It's like not focusing on the masses, but focusing on the person just like directly in front of you. And Like that's great. Have you ever read the book Good to Great?
Good to Great?
Good to Great.
Good to Great?
Good to Great.
No.
Yeah.
Good to Great. No.
Okay, so I think you might enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
a particular business book about
Okay.
like how there are good companies and there are great companies, and like what's the difference between them, or how you go from a good company to a great one. And I won't spoil it for you, but there's this one part.
You're good.
I think the guy's name is Jim Collins. There's one point where he's talking about how businesses can become better by implementing this practice that this cross country coach did with his team, where he took a nominally good, like okay cross country team that did okay every single year, but they weren't great by any means. And then they turned into like state champion competing, like placing every year cross country team. And they asked him like, what is it? What's the workout program you're doing? Are you doing more practices? What are you doing? And he basically just said, like nothing. I just place my assistant coaches along the course. We keep track of where our runners are. We track how many people they pass in a race, and then we celebrate them and congratulate them on that. Like their success is based off of it, whether or not they pass the person in front of them. We shifted the kid's mindset from I'm going to run and beat all the people in the entire race to I just need to get the person in front of me.
Yeah.
And they would congratulate with them or celebrate them by giving them like a little gold skull bead that they put on a string or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's how they changed the entire team's culture and mindset was we're not going to focus on the world. We're not going to focus on the entire track. We're not going to focus on like the miles we're going to run or the entire pack of people. We're just going to focus on the person that's directly in front of you. And once you get there, then you're going to focus on the next person in front of you.
Yeah.
Right? Versus we're going to do the whole thing. We're just going to take it bit by bit.
Yeah.
Right? So just trying to get the youth ministers to kind of focus more on that, just like how you're trying to, in a similar way of, we're just going to focus on the small conversations, like the little way of bit by bit, we become holier and we evangelize and like change the world in that way. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a constant struggle, but
yeah. And Branson asked me that one time. We were on a road trip to Hutchinson for an Acts retreat, and he was like, "I have like a random question. It's something I've been like just thinking about. It's like, but how would you define a successful parish or successful ministry?"
Ooh.
I was like, "Dang, that is true." I mean. He goes, yeah, because sometimes things can just seem so numbers focused. It's like, how many people do we have in Bible studies? How many people do we have that are coming to events? How many people this, that, whatever. But it really does turn into like, is it better to have 150 people plugged in that are kind of plugged in at a surface level relatively well? Or is it better to have those two people that end up becoming saints? And it's like, yeah, that's tough. And it's like one of those, it's like, there's no easy, it's obviously this one, or it's obviously that one. Obviously, the point is to become saints. So, yeah, if you had 2 saints versus 0 saints, that's way better. But, yeah, it's so interesting he asked that question. I was like,
that's a tough one to answer, too, because like it's kind of like a paradox. Because on one hand, it's like you have 150 people that come to Mass every single day, or 150 families, whatever you want to measure by. And that's 150 families you planted a seed in, right?
Yeah.
It might take root like 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So it's like that's a win in one like way because you're planting a seed in 150 people.
Yeah.
But then also like on the inverse of that, you have the smaller, like you have 5 people that come to Mass every single day that like are truly fully in relationship with the Lord and they live it out well. It's like, well, that's also a win. And that's a good parish. Like that's a tough one. That is a tough one.
It is tough. And I'm like, don't ask me that question on a long drive. I'll be thinking about it the whole time. But
right?
Yeah.
Like, dude, today's not the day for that.
Yeah. Hey, just a second. I have someone that just got here, and I'm like, oh, dang, I'm the only person here. I'm going to run and let them in real fast. Be right back. It's a commercial break. To commercial. Just kidding. Oh, all right.
Welcome back.
Yeah. I was like, I got a text, and the guy that's helping us out with some stuff here. He's like, I'm here. I'm like, I heard the doorbell. I was like, oh, all right. Well, yeah. Yeah, and that's back to like the evangelization question. Yeah, we were talking about that, and it's just like, That is so tough because it is like, it's not one of those things that you can like base it on. You can't base it on numbers. It would be great if you like as youth ministry, it would be great if 40 kids were coming to youth, like the youth group stuff, whatever. But if 20 are coming and they're super serious about their faith, like, so yeah, still successful.
Have you heard of Jan Tiernovsky? Blessed Jan Tiernovsky. So he was a tailor. He was a Polish tailor that he was semi-involved, and I'm gonna like kind of paraphrase this, but he was semi-involved with this this ministry that these Polish priests were doing with a local university. And whenever World War II kicked off, there was the threat of Nazis and stuff like that, and being them arresting the priests and the clergy and stuff, and like the whole Holocaust. It was traumatic or tragic. But the priest approached him one day because he'd been so involved with the ministry with the young men at the university, and they said, "Hey, we're likely to get arrested one of these days, fairly soon probably. And whenever that happens, can we trust you to continue to look after the young men that we've been ministering to?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay, you got it." And so, sure enough, these priests get arrested, and Jan Tiernovsky just begins holding a weekly rosary group with these 7, 8 young men. It's a very, very small group of guys. But he starts holding this weekly rosary group with these 7 young men. And if you were to focus on numbers only, like that's a failure, right? Only 7 guys are showing up on a weekly basis. Yeah. But one of the guys that was in that group, it was Pope John Paul II, and he attributed that to his call to the priesthood one day. Was I've been in this group with men, and this community and the witness of Jan Tiernovsky was enough for him to pursue a deeper relationship with the Lord, and he ended up becoming the great saint that he is. Yeah. Right? And so it's, on one hand, again, you have 150 people, 40 people in a youth group that's successful. Then you have your small group like that, where you may never see the fruit of that seed come to be, or you might not even be the person that's going to be the primary driver and person that brings about that fruit and that massive change that we all want to see in the world. But you might be the person that inspires the person who does. Yeah. The Lord decides to choose, but you had to till the ground for the Lord to cultivate it a little bit more. So I love that story. Yeah, I love that story, man.
And that reminds me of Andrew when he runs. And he tells Peter, "Hey, we found the Lord. The Lord is come to us, or whatever." And so they run back, and he brings Peter back, and then eventually, Jesus being "I will build my church on you." And it's just Andrew, first of all, shows such a great he's so selfless, because how terrible would that have been? And wait, what the heck? Why don't you build it on me? I'm the one that brought him. Whatever.
My respect. Where's my time?
Yeah, I'm be the CFO or something. But it's just cool that he brings him along, and you might not be the one that actually has the huge impact. That person that started that small group might not be a saint, or if he is, we just don't know it yet. But just the fact that he did something that then brought out John Paul II, it's just crazy. And it kind of reminds me, I don't know why, but because it's kind of relevant, I guess. But it reminds me of for now, Blessed Carlos Acutis, and his mom said, I didn't know this, but I was reading it, but his mom said that saints would appear to her in her dreams. And so she was mourning in that she said that St. Francis of Assisi appeared to her and said do not be sad. Your son is one of the highest of the is one of the highest ranking. So whatever, I'm probably butchering the terms of how he said it, but he's one of the highest saints in heaven, and when he will be canonized soon, and when he's canonized, it'll bring a whole generation of saints to the church, to the Catholic Church. And so she told her spiritual director about it, and he was like, "Okay, well, let us know if you hear anything else." And there were 3 or 4 other happenings where it happened again. Just hey, this happened, and then on the last one, Carlo himself appeared to her and said, "Mom, I'm so excited and I'm so filled with joy. I'll be canonized a saint soon." And they said, I'll bring many to heaven. And I was just man, that's just so cool. It's so cool. The mom, whatever the mom did, however she raised him, whatever she did, like is going to now be partially responsible for this whole generation of saints that'll come after Carlo.
It really does point to the necessity of faithful parents, not even like knowledgeable parents, but at least just faithful parents, and faithful, joyful parents at that. Because like there can be orthodoxy and adherence to the traditions, like Lil T traditions of the church, and doing all the things you're supposed to. But if you don't do that joyfully and transmit that over to your kids, then you're not going to have the effect that this mom had with Carlo Acutis, right?
Yeah,
where he's like, I want to go to adoration. I want to go to mass. I want to be near the Eucharist. Like, I guarantee that if she hadn't had some sort of joyful relationship with the faith or with the Lord, then his correlation or his relationship with it would not be near as beautiful as it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Because she could have easily been like, oh, like, I just took you yesterday. We're too busy. We got to go do this. We got to do that.
We've already gone to mass once this week. We're good.
Yeah. We're only required to go on Sundays, and you just went to mass. Why do you got to go back for adoration? Yeah, like that's great. Yeah,
so long yesterday. It's raining outside. I don't feel good. We got in late last night. We're on vacation.
Yeah, it needs to be the new thing. It's like, what kind of parent are you going to be? Are you going to be his mom, who was like, okay, and like took him and like let him and encouraged it, or would you be like, I believe it's Perpetua or Felicity, I can't remember, who the dad went to like the king or whatever and said like, please release my daughter. And it's like, all she has to do is renounce her faith and we'll release her. And the dad was ecstatic. Like, okay, great. I'll go talk to her. And went there and said, this is all you have to do. And she was like, no, I won't do it. And he's like, you're like being a fool. Do it and save yourself. And she's like, I won't do it. And I was just like, man, as a parent, I would love to say I would be Carlos Acutis' mom, but it would be so hard to not be that. And then Branson told me that's like a story that's a little bit too much. I don't know if it's too much for YouTube, but about the one where like there's a mom that they martyred her kids in front of her, and she just encouraged them to. And I think it was the same thing. She had to renounce her faith, or they had to renounce their faith, and she just encouraged them to be brave. And I was like, dang.
That sounds like the story of from Second Maccabees, I think, where the oh gosh, I think it was like the Greeks or something. I don't remember who was warring on who. But they caught like 7 of her sons. They brought them before her, and they were telling them to like renounce the Jewish God, and they are all saying no. And so they just like brutally tortured all of her sons in front of her, and they were like telling her to renounce it, encouraging her to like tell them to renounce it, and she said no every single time. And at the end of it, they told her, like, are you happy now? All your sons are dead. And she looked at her and said, for them there will be a resurrection, but for you there will be nothing. Yeah. And it's like, holy crap, to have that kind of faith to, like, willingly send your kid to, like, knowing like what's going to happen to your kid's not good, or like painful at least, but to like have faith in like whatever there on the other side is going to be good for them. Yeah. I don't know if I could do it. I have a kid that's going to be here at the end of the month. And dude.
It's wild. It's one of those things you're like, I just pray that I'm never in that situation. But if I am, like, God, give me strength.
God, give me the strength. Like the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Yeah, exactly.
That's intense. Like, hopefully that never happens to either of us, and our kids will be like 80-year-old wrinkly men and women. But
be saints that way. Well, maybe there'll be those. Maybe there'll be some kind of saint. We'll just be around for the second coming, and we'll just be assumed into heaven. I don't know. Well, how it's gonna work. Whatever.
Oh, What is it? The Protestants believe in the rapture. We're just gonna get zapped out or something. Yeah. That's it. Just take it. That's fine. That's fine.
That's so funny. Well, okay. So we're hitting the hour mark. I actually told Branson we hit like an hour, and I was like, oh no, we need to do the saint draft. But I was like, I now understand though why Matt Fradd can do like 3-hour episodes. It makes sense. You just get talking, and all of a sudden you look at the time, like, oh, we're already an hour in. But yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up real fast with the Saint draft. Okay. But anyway, but if there's any like youth watching or something, do you have any like plugs of anything you guys are doing this summer or anything like ways they could get it? Maybe they're like not plugged in or involved right now. Like what ways they could get involved?
Right. Okay. So we don't have anything technically going on this summer. Normally we would have a summer camp of some sort, but I'm going to be on paternity leave, and therefore we're not going to be able to have summer camp. But so we don't technically have anything for youth to get involved in. Oh wait, no, we have. Okay, this goes on Thursday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. June 15th is the deadline to apply to the Youth Senate. So the Youth Senate is a group of teens from around the diocese that, like high school age teens, freshmen through seniors, that advocate for their peers in their parish and help put on events like DCYC, JCYC, as well as participating in these different formational retreats. Basically, it's for those teens that they participate in youth group and they do all the things in their parish, but they want something more of a leadership position to be able to, help build the church as a team. And we're helping provide them a formation of this is the leadership aspects, the personal, secular aspects of leadership, but also here's ways to grow in your prayer life beyond what you've already been told. So the application for that is online. You can ask your parish youth coordinator for that link as well. We're taking 2 per parish. So
we can put a link in the description below too. If
link in the description below. Give it a click. That's something we have going on right now. Save the date for DCYC in October, I guess. We haven't saved the dates going out now.
I just filled the thing out for St. Philip Neri to be there, so we'll be there.
Yeah, come hang out. Maybe Josh can do a live Neri cast.
Dude, I would do it. I 100% would do it.
I don't know how you figure it out.
We can we'll set up and do some one of the shorts I've been doing, and I'm going to be getting all the college students involved when they come back. I do the Hallow Challenge, which is the Hallow. You pull out the Hallow trivia and see how many of the 5 Hallow trivia daily trivia questions you can get right. And so it encourages people to download the Hallow app. It also, I'm tagging them literally almost every single day, and so it's like, we're going to get their attention. Hey, Hallow, pay attention.
Sponsor
it.
Sponsor St. Philip Neri.
Yeah, maybe they'll at least watch it. It's like, okay, maybe when they hit 500, we'll reach out. But anyway, it's a cool little thing where they could walk up and be like, hey, you want to be part of the video? And they pull up the thing and do the trivia.
And then, so real quick, then beyond the Youth Senate or DCYC, that stuff that's happening, that's kind of more later down the road. Beyond just that, on a parish level, if you don't have a youth group at your parish, or if it's very small and you think that there could be more, please be the voice of change in your parish that requests more. Because sometimes the people in your parish, the youth or the parents and the adults in the parish don't know what the youth need because they're not youth themselves. So if there is a teen watching that they don't have anything going on in their parish, be the one to approach your pastor or your youth coordinator or your RE director and tell them, hey, I'd like to start a youth group here. I'm willing to help do it. What do I need to do? And then give me a holler and I can walk you through the practicals of how to start a youth ministry in a parish.
Yeah. And if for some reason you're from some other state or something, you should go to your own diocesan website or whatever, because they're going to have one, and search that kind of the same role, coordinator of youth ministries, and email that person, ask them the same thing. Hopefully they're as awesome as Dustin. They'll help you out. So
awesome. There's at least one.
Yeah, there's got to be one. So, all right, well, we're going to get into the Saint Draft, but I have to always plug my same joke. Is usually this would cut, and it would say Saint Draft and have a cool video that popped up, but I'm going to need Daniel McKay for that. So one day we're going to get Daniel McKay. You're going to work here. I keep mentioning it in the podcast until one day he's going to be like, I was watching your podcast, and I heard you mention me.
He's my neighbor. He's actually behind that wall.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he'll
shout loud enough.
Yeah. But I literally say it every single episode. Oh, one day, because I was thinking about it, I was like, if this thing blew up or whatever, and it did well, first of all, I want to eventually use the Chancery's podcast studio if they would let me.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know who I'd have to talk to. I don't know how that would work out. So we'll worry about that some other time. But if someone was like, you know what, this podcast is actually really great, and we want to take the quality up, maybe they would let me use it. But I always joke with people saying I'm not a tech guy, I'm not a video guy, but Daniel McKay is. And so I was like, if I was ever going to hire somebody, a part-time person to come help me out, or at least edit the videos, do stuff like that, it would be Daniel. I'd want Daniel to do it. So
he's a talented man. He could definitely do it.
So Saint Draft. All right. So for you guys that haven't done it before, Saint Draft, just like the NBA draft, we'll pick starting 5 Saints. We were talking before this, and I have a new challenge for myself. Since I do it every week, I'll pick my starting 5 Saints today because it's the first podcast episode of June, and I won't pick any of these 5 Saints. They'll be off my list for next week. And by the end of June, my saint list will be a bunch of saints you've never heard of. But I'm going to have to start reading about
really more. Scraping the barrel.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go really start reading about them. So, okay. Well, the guest always goes first. So you go with your first, and what we do is you pick somebody, and we'll do it relatively short, but you pick somebody in just kind of a short little. I would pick this person because.
Yeah. Okay, so this is to save the world, right?
Yeah. So if all 5 were alive today, they would like save the world.
Oh, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
So my first pick is Saint John Bosco or Saint Don Bosco, depending on like what circle you're running in. And because he is the patron saint of youth ministers, he actually started the Salesian Order, which their entire charism is completely focused on evangelization of young peoples. And his method of youth ministry was purely relational. The way he got young men onto the church property was he started a boxing club, and then he started inviting them to mass. I'm like, that's all you need. You don't need a big budget. All you need is an activity and then relationship. That's it.
You need Fight Club, and you need
Fight Club to bare knuckle box demons and make good prayer, man. That's all you need.
Yeah. Welcome to Youth Group MMA. Yeah, that's awesome. I literally know his name only because my daughter has a book, the Saints book, and it's like there's a patron saint of girls and a patron saint of boys, and like on the patron saint of boys it says John Bosco. All right, so since I guess I'll go with him early since I won't be able to pick him later on, but I would always go for my leader first. It's kind of like my Michael Jordan of the group, which would be John Paul II. So go JP2, have a solid Pope. I'm not saying Pope Francis. I don't really know much about Pope Francis enough to have an opinion, but overall, great. But John Paul II would be great. That would be amazing.
You could do so much worse.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, round two.
Okay, my next one is Padre Pio, St. Padre Pio.
Okay.
Just because, he's so insane. He's got the stigmata. He was just such an awesome example of faith in the face of adversity. Like the fact that he was told by the church, like, no, you're not allowed to practice public ministry, and he was like, okay, the will of the church is the will of God. And, just like this extreme obedience and faith that sometimes seems stupid to everyone else, but just a great example of faith that I think the world can learn from.
And wasn't he one of the saints that like had like literally like physical altercations with demons? Like they said people would hear like loud noises and like the whole room would be like turned upside down and he would be like getting up off the ground.
Dude, he was crazy. He had some pretty crazy experiences like with the angels, with the saints, with demons too. Like he would literally like fight demons and stuff, and then his guardian angel would show up and he'd be like, "Where have you been? I've been getting beat up all night." Like,
he's like, "You looked like you had it. You didn't tag me in." That's awesome. Yeah. So my second pick would be something similar. Is I would think that like nowadays, people are getting a little too comfortable being like, I'm going to play with this Ouija board or like tarot cards and stuff like that. I'm like, you guys are inviting some bad stuff in. I actually used to love. Well, I still love horror movies. But I used to love the ones like The Exorcism or like Exorcist and stuff like that. But I can't watch those anymore because I'm like, no, this is real. Like, I don't know, no. Once you become Catholic, you can't watch those anymore because they're like, I don't know what I'm bringing into my ears and my eyes. But anyway, so I think we would need someone that is an exorcist, and I believe he is. And anyone can correct me in the comments below. You can trash talk in the comments below as well because it helps get the video out. But it's St. Benedict. St. Benedict was exorcist would be great. And my son is Benedict, named after St. Benedict. So.
Oh, rock and roll.
Yeah. So he would be the one just getting all the demons out. Yeah. And then we'll move on to evangelization. So
there you go.
So round three.
Okay. My third pick is Saint Justin Martyr. So he's the one that wrote the first and second apologies of Saint Justin Martyr, which is essentially one of the earliest documents you can read about the Mass. And it actually kind of points to the historical nature and eternal nature of the Mass, because he wrote it to I think it was like the Roman governor of the time who was like slandering Catholics or Christians before we were called Catholics. He was slandering Christians and he was like, they're cannibals, they're incestuous, they're all this stuff. And he's like, nope, this is what we do. This is who we are. And you can read it and like, that's what we need is good, brave people to like, show the faith in its entirety and as it is to whoever it is. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so I was thinking for my third pick is like thinking of someone who could show the faith, but in like from a knowledge standpoint, so be like my apologetics person and travel around. He would run Catholic Answers for me. Even though Carlo Broussard and Cy do amazing. Is St. Thomas Aquinas. Have him going around. Yeah, just going around, and he'd be the knowledge behind everything.
Yeah, you're really choosing all the heavy hitters, so that way you don't have to like wait until the end of the month.
This just means my team at the end of the month will suck. Just be like, I'll be like Googling like
Or it'll be the
insane.
underdogs. It'll be the underdogs, man.
I've got an underdog for my first one.
Who was your underdog?
No, I got one coming. Or not my first one, my last one.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait.
Yeah, coming up.
One?
This one. So we're on pick 4 right now.
Okay.
So we'll go starting 5, and we'll do a blessed for the 6th.
Oh, so we can do blesseds.
Well, we typically wait for the 6th, but I will say, when I explained the rules, I said so to Bishop Condell. I was like, so yeah, we'll pick our starting 5 saints, and then at the very end, we'll do a 6th man, and it'll be like a blessed or anyone that's hasn't been canonized yet. He goes, okay, and I go, well, guest goes first. He goes, I'll take Blessed Stanley Rother. I'm like, no, that's not okay.
That's not fair.
I'm not going to correct Bishop. I'm just going to let him take it. And so, but I said, do anybody that's not a saint something, but it can be venerable, blessed, servant of God. So, yeah.
We're on 4.
This is pick 4.
All right, round 4. My fourth pick is Saint Joan of Arc.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. That one, again, just like super bold, super brave. Spoke out without like fear and did exactly what was asked of her, to the point that she got condemned as a heretic and burned at the stake. Like, dude, again, pray it never happens to you, but pray for the strength that you could do if needed. Right?
Yeah.
So, number 4, Joan of Arc.
She is the patron saint for Sikh 25.
Was she? Or is she?
That's awesome. Or she's going to be. Yeah. All right. So then I will go. So for my 4th, this is where I start thinking of like a faith and a prayer person. And there's always 2. I have 2, so I'll save one for next week. If you pick them, I can still pick them. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll just start remembering your list. I'm like, okay, I know I can pick from this list. But would be we'll do Saint Therese of Lisieux. Because she was just such a great, like, just had so much faith, and kind of like Carlos Acutis, was just so drawn to the Eucharist. But I love how she wanted to be in a convent so bad. Like, you're too young. And they finally were like, okay, fine, like, you can come in. But then when she died, they had a hard time writing her eulogy. And the sisters, because it wasn't until they found her writings, I believe, that she really started to be considered like a doctor of the church and a saint. But I remember that, like, reading somewhere, it said the sisters actually said, like, we're having a hard time writing her eulogy. She didn't really do anything. And I was like, that's funny. It's so funny. And she always tried to hang around a specific sister because she didn't like her. It's like, I don't like her, so I'm trying to put myself around her as much as possible because I don't like her. And I want to like grow in the virtue of patience and just try to love on her because I really don't like her. Like, that's so funny.
To do it, I guess. Again, I don't think I have the strength to do that, but
yeah.
The world, dude, can you imagine if everyone in the world started following that example of, I don't like this person, but I'm going to be around them until I like them?
Yeah, I'm just going to surround myself with them. Yeah, this would be crazy. All right, so 5th pick. This is our last starting 5 spot, and then we'll have that 6th man.
Okay. Oh, gosh. They're not saints yet, and I was going to pick them, but they're not a saint yet.
Really, this thing is like there's no real rules. Like, it's kind of like whose line is it anyway? It's like there's no rules and the points don't matter.
All right, I'm going to do then like the almost Saint Carlo Acutis.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, he's not a saint yet, but he's about to.
Yeah, so that's what some people are always like picking, like blessed Giorgio Frassati, Pier Giorgio Frassati.
Oh, yeah,
so, like, I got to pick him as my blessed now because he'll be in my starting 5 soon. Yeah, he'd be great. Yeah. Especially with all this, like, so with all the stories I read about the saints appearing to his mom and what's gonna happen. It's cool to see. It's cool to hear, like a very, very recent saint that lived very recently, died in like 2006, I think.
Yeah,
and saints are telling his mom like there's gonna be a ton of saints come.
Plus, you can actually see photo and video of him.
Yeah,
how he acts around other people and his personality. You can get glimpses of that. But that's so cool because I feel like for a lot of people, whenever you think of the saints, it's really difficult to kind of try and think of them as people because there's all that they were so faithful and they were so holy, but you never got a glimpse of their personality because there's no pictures or video of them. And so it's like, okay, cool. This is like not a person. That's an actual like angel. But to actually see a human person living a holy life and being a saint, that's crazy. Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, I feel like sometimes people, and maybe myself, you think about that even when you're reading like stories in the Bible, like the Old Testament, and you're like, wait, like I remind myself that Moses was like an actual person that lived on this earth, and like he did all this stuff, or like whatever. And it's like sometimes I forget that they actually were here, like the Jesus was here.
They were alive. They had things they liked. They had things they didn't like. There were games they liked and jokes they liked. And they had personalities, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. So my fifth pick is always my dark horse. I know no one else is going to pick because most people probably don't know anything about him,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't either. Was in a donor meeting and someone was like, "Tell me about St. Philip Neri," and I was like,
Ooh, okay.
like, well, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much about him. I've been working here for like 6 months. I probably should have looked into that. And so I started researching him and find out he's the second apostle of Rome. He's the patron saint of joy, which is amazing. And some people even say Mother Teresa loved Saint Philip Neri. And some people say like he was the Mother Teresa before Mother Teresa. He was supposed to
That's crazy.
inherit
That's
this
cool.
business and his family's business, and he actually turned it away, sold everything, got rid of everything, and just left, lived with the poor. And he would go. He was a great example of the little way of evangelization. He would literally go one by one to men, and he would tell them like, "Are you ready to like serve God?" And when they said yes, he would take them, and they would pray together. And then immediately he would take them to a hospital and get them volunteering, or he would take them to a place where there were poor people that needed help, and they would help clean stuff up, whatever it was. And he literally did it one by one. And one of my favorite quotes of his is like, "Give me 10 detached men from the world, and watch us change the world." And I was like, "That's so cool." And it kind of
It's
talks
a great
to,
model too. It's a great
yeah,
example.
because it talks to that little way of evangelization. I used to be in network marketing, so it's like if you just one person, but you find 10 people to disciple, and that's a lot. Maybe it's 5, but let's say 10 for easy math. Your next, and you teach them to be disciples. That next level is 100 people, and then those 100 turns into 1,000, turns into 10,000, and just like multiplies fast. And so he
Yeah.
had that vision of like, if I just get 10 people, I just got to get 10 guys, and I got to make sure they're detached from this world. And if I can, we'll change the world. I was like,
Another great
that's so
example
cool.
for like the person who's upset about only having 7 kids in their youth group. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
those 7 kids, they find 7 more apiece. That's,
Yeah.
7 times 7. I'm not good at math. I
49.
failed, I
Yeah.
failed math like so many times.
Yeah.
So
You all
I'll
of a
leave
sudden
that
have,
up to the mathematicians out there. That's all.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, St. Philip Neri is always my dark horse because I know a lot of people don't know much about him because I knew nothing about him when I
I
started
didn't know
here.
that. That's crazy. I
And
love
yeah,
that.
he's super cool. Yeah,
Good
and
guy.
he had all sorts of oratories, and so he started oratories, and so he brought a whole bunch of priests up, and so these guys that he was taking and they were serving, they were actually becoming ordained and becoming priests, and so it's great. Yeah.
Meanwhile,
All right, now a blessed to wrap it up, and you've officially congratulations, you're officially the longest episode we've done.
so
Take that,
I'll take it.
Branson.
I'll take it. Thank you, Branson. Don't worry.
Branson's gonna be like, I got to get back on this show. No.
We got like a running comp.
Yeah,
The longest one.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
He comes on, he like surprises me. I'm gonna be like, Josh, I gotta come back on.
Yeah,
That's Branson.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, blessed, blessed,
Mm-hmm.
blessed, blessed, blessed. Oh gosh.
You already took one
Okay,
great
so
one.
he's not a lot of people know about him, but I just recently learned about him. I think he's so cool. It's a Blessed Justo Takayama, I think is his last name. He's a Japanese samurai. That's a blessed.
Okay.
And
Nice.
so I don't know if you know much about the history of Christianity or Catholicism in Japan, but it was incredibly difficult to get it started because the Japanese Empire
Yeah.
like hated it. The movie Silence is
Yeah.
with the Andrew Garfield and Adam
Mhm.
Driver, Martin Scorsese directed it. Is centered around it, and like the persecution of Christians in Japan was insane. And
Wow.
this Japanese samurai heard the gospel and met some Jesuit missionaries, and he was like, "That's it. I love this," and
Yeah.
he became like the samurai for Christ in a
That's awesome.
hostile world to Christianity.
Yeah.
So,
That'd be the coolest title ever.
samurai.
Samurai for Christ.
Yeah, right. It's like,
That's awesome.
that's so sick. So
Yeah, that's
sick.
super cool.
Where's the
Well,
movie?
then I'll stick with the kind of Asian culture theme for but mine's venerable right now. They called him Father Al, but it's Father Aloysius Schwartz. Another one that most people don't know about. But the book is called Priests and Beggars, and I think I have it somewhere, but it's by Kevin Wells.
Okay.
But it's this guy that, like, another guy detached from the world, did not care for things, but became a priest. And he actually, when he first went to seminary, he went there, and it was so luxurious and so nice that he was like, I don't like this. And so he went to Belgium for seminary, and he ended up going there where they specifically tried to live with very little. His own room was concrete walls, a bed, a desk, and a chair. That's it. And and he loved it. And he's just like, I feel so much closer to Christ. And so then when he got his first role, like they're like, is there any place you want to be assigned as a missionary priest? He's like, I want to go to the most desolate place in the world. And they're like, well, the Korean War just ended. So he's like, yes. So we can send you to South Korea. And so he went to South Korea, and it was literally like, he explains it in the book, because this is a recent saint too. Like I think he died in the, I'll have to look it up again, but it's like the 80s or something, maybe 90s.
Yeah.
But he when he got there, he said, when I landed, buildings were still smoking and people were still lifting up rubble looking for people. And the first two people he encountered was a boy that was probably, he said, 8 to 10 years old, carrying his little sister, and they were looking for their parents. And so he took them in, and he got there. When he got there, he saw the rectory was way too nice, and he sold it, and he ended up starting a boys' town and a girls' town. And it was an orphanage and a school for all these orphans, because all these the parents died in the war. And he basically completely rebuilt the Catholic Church in South Korea. And then, long story short, all these bishops from all over the world heard about what he was doing and brought him all over the place, to the Philippines and India and all this stuff, to do all these boys' towns and girls' towns. He ended up getting ALS, and then Mexico wanted him to do boys' towns, girls' towns. He said no, but he had this devotion to Mary, and Mary appeared to him in a dream as Our Lady of Bonneau, which is Virgin of the Poor. But as she walked towards him, she transformed into Our Lady of Guadalupe. And she said, I need you to do the boys' town and girls' town. He does the boys' town, girls' town. They open it, ribbon cutting, and he dies that month. I'm like, that's crazy. But Priests and Beggars is the book. It's one of those books. I'm not even a reader, but it's one of those books, like once you start reading it, it's like you just like fire through it.
Dude,
anyone that is anyone that is a reader will finish that book in a day, because it's pretty small. It's probably like 150 to 200 pages long. Like that's it. And it's just super good. It's so good. It talks about all that stuff. All right. Yeah.
We need to pitch some movies to Hollywood. Or maybe not Hollywood. Angel Studios. Pitch some movies to Angel Studios.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it'd be good. That's what we'll do. That's what we'll get our first sponsor from. We'll pitch a movie idea to them. Our only catch is you got to sponsor this podcast. So
take it wrong.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll wrap it up an hour and a half later. So, Dustin, thanks for being on. I'm sure we'll have you back on, because we'll run out of people in Tulsa to talk to. So we'll come back around, maybe closer to, what is it, DYC?
Yeah,
DCYC. Yeah, maybe closer to that, and maybe we will. Maybe if we can, like, we'll have come out there and do the podcast out there, and or a post event podcast, and have you back on to talk about it. But I'll include everything that we talked about, any links or whatever in the description below. I'll just have you send them over to me. Other than that, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment what you liked, what you hated, whatever. Just comment on the video, because it's a new age way of spreading the gospel, spreading the word, the God's message that he's playing in our lives. It spreads it out through the algorithm. So we need more Jesus on YouTube anyway. That's the new theme of this show. So you guys have a great week. And next week, who do we got? Real fast before we go. We got Gerald. Gerald will be on the show next week. Next week we got a big event. We're doing Theology on Tap. And so Gerald's going to be diving into the topic of Everything's a Gift, which is a teaching of St. Therese, which is going to be awesome. So join us next week. And again, Dustin, thanks for being on. And we'll see you soon. Yeah.